Yeah, yeah, I'll be live on YouTube now.
My question is, when are you? Ah, okay, yeah, I see it. Okay, perfect.
Anish, do you want me to send a message in Moodle to them?
For what, Fernanda?
Students, I can send the telling them to join as fast as possible.
I had sent in the morning a message.
I saw.
Yeah. So I guess most are already aware of it. If you, but
I'm
we
going to
can.
try it again in Portuguese now.
Yeah. Okay.
The students, but 30 minutes is it possible to send it faster than 30 minutes? No.
Yes. Yes. You just need to click. There is a button that send immediately. Just below the message, there's an option for that on Moodle. So anyway, at 10:10 sharp we can start. So just 4 minutes we can give. Usually in university we give 10 minutes extra for students to join in.
Okay.
3 minutes more.
Perfect.
So just to inform our students that today we are using the webinar feature of Zoom, which works a little bit different than the regular feature. So if you want to speak at any time, you'll need to raise your hand, and then I have to click to allow you to speak. So we will do that during the question answer session during the end.
No. Your company was chosen, your startup was chosen by our students as one of the favorite ones to be for this inspirational talk.
Wow.
You received lots of votes from our students, so which demonstrates they are interested in hearing this topic.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's
Anish,
really good to hear.
yeah. Should we start, Anish?
Yes, I think we can start now.
I think we can start, yeah? So, okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome. Today we have Nuno Brito Jorge, the CEO of GoParity, a platform where you can lend money to sustainable projects, and you can start with as little as €5 and earn up to 8%. So I'm very curious to understand the business model of GoParity. Nuno did environmental engineering at Católica University in Porto, and also an executive education course at MIT and Nova SB. Please, Nuno.
Well, thanks a lot, everyone, and thanks also, Professor Fernanda, for the invitation. And I just learned that we were chosen to be here sharing a bit of our experience. So also thank you for choosing GoParity. I'm not sure about how this webinar tool works in terms of interactivity, but of course I want everybody to feel free to ask questions when you want. Maybe if it's not possible to do it all together, just keep writing them in the chat or something, so we at least don't lose track of whatever doubts or even suggestions you may have. So to start with, I would just like to share a bit about me. So you heard about from Professor Fernanda the academic part. This is a bit of the personal part. Of course, you know, I'm the co-founder and CEO of GoParity. I've also started Copernico, some of you might have heard of, which is a renewable energy cooperative, and a couple of other companies. I have 3 children. I am right now based in Barcelona, so I moved here to Barcelona just before the pandemics, not for any specific reason, or not professional at least, for family reasons. But we do hope Barcelona, Spain will be an important part of our activity in the near future. I'm a nature lover. I do lots of sports. I mostly sports outside. I hate going to the gym. I love playing tennis, surfing, hiking, whatever it happens outdoors. And my biggest frustration is that I can't learn how to play the guitar. So I'm a really terrible guitar player. I've tried online courses. I've tried personal lessons in person, and I just can't do it. Maybe I'm just too old to learn how to play the guitar. So this was just a bit about me. Now, I wanted to ask if anyone knows what this is. I don't know if this can be interactive or not, so it's a bit hard.
If anyone wants to respond, just raise your hand and I will allow you to talk. I just have to press a button. So
okay, that's a good idea. Raise your hand if you know what this is.
I don't think anyone knows.
We are sure they're listening, right?
I think they are listening.
Okay. We have one hand.
Okay, I don't really know what it is, but it seems like a color map.
It is. So this is a picture a visual artist made to represent global warming. So what you see on each bar is a year or a sequence of years, and of course the more red it is, it means the warmer temperature is. I'm not sure if it is art that is going to solve our problem. Probably art alone won't, but I think this is a very good representation of the challenge we are facing as humanity and of the problem we have created. Now, I was only 7 years old when NASA first warned the US government that climate change had started. I actually remember I was in my grandmother's house where I had lunch at least 3 times a week, and on the news something was out about global warming. I don't know if it's exactly this piece of news, but I remember listening about global warming for the first time there. And so I'm the son of an engineer, and my immediate reaction was I have to think of something to solve this. We're going to drown, because at that time the main consequence we knew was, of course, the ice melting and water levels rising. I couldn't come up with anything very that would work back then, but we have now been ignoring the same warning for over 60 years. So 60 years ago, the climate change and greenhouse effect was discovered and communicated. 30 years ago, the signs of actual human-induced climate warming were also communicated, and we still haven't been able to solve this challenge as humanity. Not only we have not solved this, as we have been able to add other challenges. And you can think about poverty, pollution, plastics, the deforestation, the all the resource depletion that we are causing. And if you think of it, there's a lot of problems to solve, and of course we can't carry the weight of the world in our hands, but there is something that we know that is common to solving all these problems, at least, which is money. So we don't know the exact best solution for every problem, but we know that all of these problems will require investment, right? So my next question, you can maybe write it on the chat, is where do you keep your money? If you can use the chat, you can just reply there. Danielle wants to reply.
Yeah, I can reply. I keep my money in just the bank. I just deposit it in a bank.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Danielle. So I think most of us, and probably also most of you and most of us, keep our money in banks, right? While our money is in a bank, sorry, the question was here. When we have our money in a bank, if it's not invested, we actually probably think it's just stuck there in a bank account, right? It's just waiting for you to decide whatever you want to do with that money. But that's not actually the case. So when money is in a bank, in a cash account, and it is not invested in something that you have chosen, that money is being used by banks. Yes, and this is how they finance their activity. And actually, usually people think that banks are rich, but banks are not rich. It is our money that they are playing with. So while people might not be aware, for example, we know that the world's 60 largest private banks financed $4.6 trillion for fossil fuel industries, which are climate warming inducing, or climate change inducing, sorry. And they didn't ask you, at least my bank never asked me what do I want them to do with the money that is stuck in my account. Banks also fund the arms industry, and we know we are actually in a time of the history of humanity where war is becoming a common word again, and we don't know what's gonna happen in the future. Banks are also part of this story. They have also funded the world's most harmful agribusinesses. So while you think your money is stuck, you might be contributing to the deforestation of the Amazon, for example. So these are just some examples of uses of your money that might be happening that you are not aware of. The Carbon Bank report is a study that made for the first time a very interesting analysis of what is the carbon footprint of your cash. And they concluded that for every $1,000 that you have in a bank account, you are contributing to the emission of 126 kilograms of CO2 to the atmosphere per year. So idle money doesn't mean zero impact. Idle money means contributing to climate change or other problems that might arise from industries that banks will traditionally finance. Now, apart from this, and I promise this is the last piece of bad news, we also know that inequality is growing bigger and bigger, right? And I think just last week, a new report came, and we know that the richest 1% in the world own more than half of all the global wealth. And unfortunately, the pandemics and the bipolarization of society is also not contributing to improve. So we know this gap is growing further and further. The United Nations has, I don't know if you have heard about the Sustainable Development Goals, but the United Nations has created these goals that at first they were called the Millennium Goals, now they're called Sustainable Development Goals, and it is sort of a way to synthesize the challenges that we face as society regarding the end of poverty, the end of hunger, renewable energy, decent work, inequalities, sustainable cities. So several different goals have been established. And it's estimated that $5 to $7 trillion need to be invested every year in order to achieve this goal. And of course, the more delayed we are, the more we have to invest every year. And this is where the good news starts. We also know that there are more than $9 trillion sitting in European households' bank accounts. So this is idle money that is stopped in households' bank accounts, so in families' bank accounts. But we also know that the younger the generation, and that's also what makes it so exciting to be talking to you today, is that the younger the generation, the more aware you are of the problems we face, the more you want to have a different world, and the more you have the capacity to think about the impact of your actions. So you can see here that more than 30% of people from Generation Z are willing to allocate at least 50% of their investments to impact. And I'm not sure if you are aware of what impact investing is. So we have a small description here. It is the act of investing in sustainable projects. So in practical terms, applying resources in projects that will bring out something positive for the environment and for people, for society. We usually sum it up as using money for good. This is something that we use a lot also internally at GoParity. In practical terms, what does this mean? It means shifting the use of money, shifting from fossil fuels to renewable energy, shifting from a speculative economy to the real economy, shifting from intensive agriculture to regenerative or biological agriculture, shifting from fast fashion to circular fashion, and there's several other changes that we can do about the way our money is used to be able to contribute to a more sustainable future. So this was the framework in which we created GoParity. So GoParity is an impact finance and investment app. I don't know if you have tried it yet, or some of you might have, that you can use to lend money to sustainable projects. With GoParity, we have already had more than 21 million invested. And we help save more than 23,000 tons of CO2 emissions every year. This is just a short explanation of how it works. So on the one hand, you have people who are just people like us. Anyone can be an investor starting with only €5 with GoParity that lend money to projects, which can be projects by nonprofits, projects by any regular small and medium company, and also projects by entrepreneurs that need funding for a sustainable project. You lend them money, they will pay it back to you, the principal, which is the part of the money you have lent, and you get earnings, which is the interest. So when you lend money, you already know exactly for how long that loan is going to last and what is the interest of that loan. On top of it, of course, there is impact. So as a user of GoParity, you will also always have information about the impact your money is making. So you know exactly how many tons of CO2 you are avoiding every year. How many jobs did you help create? How many communities have been empowered by that project. How many kilowatt hours of clean energy you're helping produce, or you helped save, because we also have some energy efficiency projects. Yeah, so this is the basic way how GoParity works. Now we have projects a bit all over the world. We're in 3 continents. So we have projects in Uganda and in Kenya in Africa. We have Brazil, Colombia, Peru, and Ecuador in South America. And we have also funded projects in several European countries. I think you can see them on the map. Each project has its own. So in different countries, we fund different types of projects. For example, in Brazil and Colombia, it's been only about solar power. But in Peru and Ecuador, it's always been projects about sustainable farming, both of cocoa and coffee. And Uganda and Kenya have also been solar power. But for example, I will tell you a story about the Uganda later, but they're both in solar power, but different segments. This is our set of values, and this is important because as we grow as a company, we need to make sure that these values are well understood by everybody that works inside. So this is not only, of course, to share outside, but also as we grow to make sure that everybody that joins GoParity is well aware of these values. Universality means we are working for everyone, not just for the rich, not just for any specific segment. This has to be for everyone. So our language has to be language that is universal. We made our minimum of €5 investment also to make it possible for anyone to be able to invest. Transparency, it's the biggest trust builder that you can have, and we try to communicate everything. So we share which companies you're investing in, what finance they are having, what impact they are having, who is the person behind the company. If there's a problem, we also communicate it, everything. Tangibility means we want to share the results properly. So, for example, one example would be if I tell you, you're saving 300 kilograms of CO2 per year, most people don't know what that means. And I mean, exactly in practical terms, if we tell you it's the equivalent of planting 9 trees, then you already have a better comparison. So tangibility is about being able to share the results, but also when they're not easily understood, making sure we communicate them in a way that they can be properly understood by the users. And sustainability, of course, because it's our greatest commitment, and it's actually a key element of people that work at GoParity. So about our impact. For now, we have already funded 240 projects until December. Now we have a few more. We have helped create almost 5,000 jobs. We have generate 16 megawatt hours of clean electricity per year. We have positively impacted almost 150,000 people. We also have helped protect almost 1,500 hectares of land, both of land or water, so the sustainable management. All these metrics are made based on the Sustainable Development Goals or some other reporting initiatives for impact investing. On the non-impact part, so on the broader figures, we have more than 31 registered users in the platform. We have funded more than 120 companies. We have invested more than 21 million euros. This is all investments by people. So 98% of this is individuals. We also have a few company investors. More than 7.5 million euros have already been paid back to investors. And our projects have an average interest rate of 5.3% per year. We also have investors from 73 different nationalities, though 89% of them are Portuguese. which is amazing because we have Portugal, which is a country that is not that rich in the European context, having we have people from a country that is not that rich investing for impact, not choosing. Even if we have not that much money, we choose what we want to do with it. So this is how money is separate per categories. We fund projects in 5 categories: water and the blue economy, where we have a lot of aquaculture, all the aquaculture value chain, algae production too, and also some water efficiency. Business in transition is where we include whatever measures are implemented to improve companies' environmental performance. So, for example, projects about circular economy or electric mobility go on this category. The green use of land is about the way we produce food and also the protection of biodiversity. Social economy, where we have social entrepreneurship, but also non-profits, and sustainable energy, where we fund both renewable energy and energy efficiency. This is our team. We are now a team of 18. We are hiring quite fast now because we just finished a funding round. It was just communicated last week, and we finished it in December. So we are hiring a lot. This is also an announcement that if you find any of what I'm saying that is something interesting, please let us know. And if you're looking for internships or for your first job or something, let us know, please. And we also have opened a company in Canada last year, so we are about to be able to start operating in Canada too. This is here are some examples of our projects. For example, My Kombucha is a Portuguese biological kombucha producer based in Leça de Palmeira, which is very close to Porto. There's an example of a small project that we did. So it was just 9,000 euros, and they used us to buy a new refrigerator and a couple of machines that they needed in order to scale their production. Oceano Fresco is an offshore farming company. So they're doing aquaculture. They did the world's first offshore clam farm, and they have already raised almost 1 million euros with us. You can see one of the campaigns here is an example that was funded by 1,650 investors. So you see that even if for Oceano Fresco is almost like they had only one loan, in fact, you have a lot of people that are lending money to the projects that we fund. And then Macadamia Nuts is a project in Kenya that was to fund the product. Well, the name says itself, right? So it's funding macadamia nuts agriculture in Kenya. Lastly, the story I told you about Uganda, and the presentation is almost coming to an end, so we're going to have time for a proper Q&A. So in Uganda, we have funded the electrification of dairy cooperatives. So these are milk producers that are together as cooperatives in rural parts of Uganda where there is no electricity. Now, the problem they had is, of course, as they didn't have electricity, they had diesel generators working. Okay, so they're the whole day with the smell and smoke of diesel. They have to buy diesel to make sure they don't run out of electricity. They're of course polluting because they have the generator working 24/7, and they also have the noise of the generator all day, and they're depending on the availability of diesel. Now, we funded solar power with batteries for them. This means that they are no longer reliant on the generator. Generator is there now only as a backup in case they would need it. And now they have clean, affordable, and stable electricity to operate. So they don't risk not having electricity, and all the milk, for example, if it's not refrigerated, they're gonna have to throw it away, and they can no longer sell it. So it has a huge impact on the local economy. And now this is the impact that we already knew when we funded them. So this was the goal of the project, right? Well, what we didn't know is what happened after that. And this is why I like to share this story, because sometimes there is intangible impact, or at least unforeseeable impact, that will create the most good and or at least the better stories. So as you see, there are lights installed, and there's a fence around the solar park, right? So at night, the same solar park or small solar power station looks like this. In this area of Uganda, there is no electricity. So what happened, and we didn't expect, was that suddenly this was the only source of publicly available lighting in the region. So our solar panels are not only doing all of that because of for the business, as it is also now the place where people get together at night to have light. It's where children go at night to play after it's dark, and it's also where street vendors, that of course when they're selling at night on the roadside, are incurring huge risks of being robbed or ran over or whatever, can now sell their products here safely. So I thought I'd share this because we really like this story, and we have a couple of more like this. Also, even in Portugal, we have some stories. And the beautiful part, of course, is that this impact was created by a lot of people that are making money out of it, decent money, and might have only invested from €5 to who knows how much. So you probably remember this figure that I shared in the beginning of the presentation. This is the impact your idle money has in a bank account. Well, the same $1,000 invested in GoParity has more than 10 times the reduction of the footprint you create by having money that is doing nothing. Joining GoParity is quite easy. I don't need to explain this part too much. You have to do the typical registration. You go through KYC, which means we need because you're basically opening a bank account. So we need to have your ID, your address, your financial data. You can invest starting with as little as €5, and you just need to choose which are the projects that you like your money to be used in. And to be easier for you to start, and if you want to try, we prepared a voucher for you. So if you want to scan this QR code, or if you already have an account, or if you create an account and you're not using the QR code, you can go to the vouchers section of our app and just write Nova 5, and you will get €5 to invest for free. Yeah, and I guess now my part of the presentation is over, so I'll be very happy to answer every questions, to share stories, challenges, whatever you might want to talk about. And thank you.
Thank you very, very much. So let's open to questions. It was a very interesting presentation, in my opinion. And also you have the opportunity of having this voucher of €5 for the first one who enter in this app. So please, let's open to questions. And each, do you want to coordinate the question and answers? I think it's easier. You have your mic off. You need to put your mic on. Yeah, great.
Oh, thank you for reminding me. So love the presentation, and I have a lot of questions in my head, but I'll just hold it off because, of course, the students get the first priority. So Antonio, over to you.
Should I stop sharing the screen so we can see each other? But I didn't see.
Yeah, you can stop it.
Yeah?
Yes. Yeah. So Antonio, sorry, just unmute your mic and ask your question. Antonio, are you listening to us?
Yes, I'm listening. Good morning. I'd like to know about what was the beginning of the project, because we are starting the course and we have some problems to develop some application or solve some problems. So I'd like to know what was the start point to develop this solution to invest.
Yeah, thanks, Antonio. Anish, I'm gonna reply right away, right?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So it started in 2012. So when I lived for several years outside of Portugal, in Belgium and South America and then Spain, and when I came back to Portugal, it was 2009. So it was peak financial crisis back then. And I had to open a bank account to get paid my salary because I had moved back to Portugal to work in Portugal again. And when I lived in Spain and in Belgium, I used to have a bank account with an ethical bank. But in Portugal, there was no ethical bank. So it was actually the start of the crisis. There was a lot of bad news about banks going bankrupt, and a lot of several other problems, and people losing their money in banks too. And so I couldn't open an account in an ethical bank. I opened an account in another bank, but I kept this thing of, why can't I choose where I have my money? How can I control what's happening when my money is just sitting there? So I talked to a few friends, and I also talked to my stepmother, and I convinced her to rent the roof of her hotel in the Algarve, in the southern part of Portugal. And she rented the roof to a company that I started to install solar panels there. So my proposal was, I will rent let me use your roof, I will produce solar power, sell electricity to the grid, and then I'll pay you keep a percentage for the rent of the roof. And so she accepted it. We were able to do that, but then suddenly we didn't have money enough, me and my three friends. So we did what every entrepreneur does. We started asking around us, family and friends, who wanted to lend money to this company for us to be able to invest. So if people would lend us money at, let's say, I think 4 or 5% at that time, and then we would pay that interest, and whatever margin we make, it stays within the company. So, and this was the beginning of it. Now it happened. The project was in 2012, and there still wasn't a legal framework to do what GoParity does in Portugal. So that was also the year I started Copérnico. I started Copérnico 1 year later, which is the Renewable Energy Cooperative, where people can join the cooperative and lend money to the cooperative to make solar power projects, but also can hire electricity from Copérnico. And I started a solar power company that was called Boa Energia. When the new framework came out for crowdfunding in Portugal, I talked to my co-founders at Boa Energia, and I said, guys, this is why I became an entrepreneur. I want to start GoParity now. and they didn't want to leave the solar power business because it was also growing. So we came to an agreement. They kept my shares of Boa Energia. I kept the GoParity platform that we had already started to develop, and I found other co-founders to start GoParity with in 2017. So in 2018, we launched our first project, like our pilot project, already using the platform. If you have any follow-up question, Antonio? Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Oi?
Vocês podem também fazer perguntas em português se sentirem mais à vontade. Não há problema.
Claro, podemos fazer em português. O João.
Oh, hello, sorry. Thank you for the presentation. I really like the platform, GoParity. I really like that's a new spin on all the peer-to-peer lending platforms that exist nowadays. And the sustainable part is really something that is cool. Now, my actual question is more about the pitch and how you secure funding for this. Because peer-to-peer lending, even though it's interesting, is not particularly groundbreaking as it is. It's just loaning money. How do you navigate the attitude that money that is being invested in the platform can be used, for example, in a more effective way? And how do you actually pitch this to people so they can invest in the platform? I don't mean the customers. I mean, for example, the seed rounding and all that, funding and all that. For example, I know that the company did a funding round in Crowdcube, and I'm kind of interested in knowing how do you navigate that part of people could just put money in another peer-to-peer lending platform.
Okay, thanks, João. That's a very interesting question, and I'm first of all, I'm happy that you like GoParity and what we do. So fundraising, when you're in a sector like peer-to-peer lending, as you said, is not necessarily easy because the numbers aren't great, to be honest, right? Because we make very small margins on our projects, so we need to have big volume to be able to make it a profitable business. Then we might think, okay, but there's impact investors who want to invest in this type of platform or of company. But then what reality shows is most of them are just like other impact investors, but you have on top requirements, right? Because you need to show how much impact you're making, or CO2, or whatever you're dedicated to. So they will still only invest if you show that you can do proper growth and proper impact. This said, there are also other investors that are prone to impact, but they're less ambitious, let's say, financially, or they have more time to wait. This is what typically we call patient capital. So companies that instead of wanting to invest and leave in 2-3 years are okay with an exit within 5 to 7 years, for example, which gives you time, which gives you a bit of time to work and grow sustainably without the pressure of always needing to have like all your metrics multiplied by 3. And the way we navigated ourselves in our fundraising strategy is, first of all, communicating a clear vision. So one of the mistakes you might do as an entrepreneur is when you're facing an investor that would rather invest in something different, losing your, let's say, the personality or the vision of the company just to be able to fundraise. So this is something that we have learned with experience, and right now we have one clear vision, roadmap, long-term roadmap, and that's the roadmap we want to do. It doesn't mean we won't pivot if we have to for some reasons, or if some features that we think of don't actually have commercial interest, or there's no market for them. Of course we will change, but the vision needs to be there, and you may need to make it very clear for the investors from the beginning. The other aspect of what we do is, honestly, the story I want to tell about GoParity one day in the future is not the story of having done angel, pre-seed, seed, Series A, B, C, IPO. This is not the story I want to do, and also not having to multiply every metric by 10 in 2 years always. So one of the things that we have, of course, this is something that let's say the more mature and the more traction you have, the easier it is to get this done. So as you said, we did a crowdfunding campaign with Crowdcube. It's an equity crowdfunding campaign in our latest round. So we raised 2 million euros, and 1.35 came from institutional investors, from Mustard Seed Maize, who was already an investor. They're an impact investing fund, and from Schneider Electric Energy Access. Now, the reason Schneider is one of them is that they do have this capability of thinking long term, and they don't have the pressure of needing an exit very soon. They're basically a pension fund, so they invest long term. They're not a pension fund, but they work like one. And then we did the equity crowdfunding part. And the equity crowdfunding part was not done because we couldn't find money anywhere else. We actually had to reject one investor in the end. We did it because I deeply believe that a company like GoParity that is focused on democratizing the economy, democratizing investment, mainstreaming impact investing, will benefit a lot from being partially owned by the community it serves. So this is also a new type of model that we are trying to build. You know, it's a model where, in the end, the story of power, both money and governance, is focused on founders, team, people, or users, and of course the venture capital that helps us through the way. But what I don't want to have is a story that in the end only I made money and only the venture capitalists made money. And also, we want to have people being part of our governance, of our decision making, of being aware of everything that is going inside the company, suggesting features. One of the best things we have is people are highly engaged with GoParity. Whenever I send a quarterly email to all the users in the platform, and I get a lot of feedback. And some are just, congratulations, you're doing great, I'm really happy to be part of this. And some are, hey, why don't you make accounts for children? Because I have sons and I have children, and I would love to create a long-term investing strategy for them to be saving until they go up to college and have money there. And these things work. And I think during last month, or at least this quarter, we're going to launch accounts for children, because we had so many people suggesting the same thing. I don't know if Maybe I spoke too much, or this was not to your point, but wasn't
No,
over.
this was really helpful. It helped me understand what you did and how you position yourself. And I guess this is true for most companies, but from what I understood, most important parts is how you position yourself to other companies and other investors, and which people you choose to associate with. That's the part that I took from it. Thank you.
Yeah, you know, João, one thing that I also learned with experience. This is if you are an entrepreneur or you want to be one, this is a very important thing. In the beginning, it's very easy to get excited with investors when they come and show you the money, and you really need money, and they say, "Hey, I can invest 100,000 euros or something." But have 3 meetings with them, meet in person. If there is any sort of doubt you may have, don't move forward. Because relationships with investors at an early stage can be really destructive, and I've had my share of really, really hard moments in life. Some of them were caused by having the wrong investor in GoParity's cap table. We have one more question, I think, Fontanari.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. It was really interesting. And I have actually a double question, if it's all right. So one is how you select the projects. Is it like you going looking for projects and finding them and picking the most promising ones, or is it more projects trying to find an investor and they find the GoParity? And the second question would be how you rate the risk and return of these projects, because I think especially for small projects, it can be hard to, let's say, put a number on it. And is it something you do, or is it something some other rating company does? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So about how we get projects, it works both ways. So we have both outbound and inbound. Outbound, we try to go to specific sectors that we know that might need our type of funding. One example would be solar power, for example. So that's a very basic case, you know, where we know that we can lend money to a company that is installing solar panels in a way or with a cost that every monthly installment is smaller than the savings they will make if they invest in solar power. So this would be an example. On the other side of this is it's very hard to find companies that want to buy solar panels, right? Because we have no idea who is buying solar panels, and we don't sell panels, and we don't want to sell solar panels. So what we did is we use a sales channel strategy. So instead of going to a company and asking, "Hey, do you want solar panels? By the way, do you need financing?" What we do is we work with solar power installers, and they already have access to all their commercial, let's say, potential customers. And we say, you have a tool here that you can share with your customers. If they need funding to buy panels from you, then they can use GoParity. And some of the installers already send out their proposals with a simulation of funding by GoParity. And the same thing can be done in other sectors. For example, with startups, we have co-invested with funds. So funds that we know this specific fund invests a lot in green technology companies. So we go talk to them and say, "Hey, if there's any company in your portfolio need funding, if so, let us know." And we meet with one of them. Okay, they like it. Then mail it to other companies. If anyone needs loan funding, you know you have GoParity here. So this is the sales channel strategy part. Now we also have some inbound, of course, mostly because of word of mouth and because of news that come out about us, for example. So several companies have already suggested other companies to fundraise with us. And of course, if people read the news about GoParity in any economic newspaper or something, then also it usually brings inbound. Also, SEO brings some inbound, of course, and some companies just find out about us on the internet. We are now working on a digital sales strategy. So we want to make this inbound even more relevant and also more efficient. So we are right now at the early stage of developing what we call a fast track funding. That is the process to try to make it almost all digital, where you can insert your company data. We will analyze, we'll make like a preliminary proposal based on your financial analysis that is available in rating providers. We will approve your loan up to a certain amount, and then the only time it starts to be manual is when we have to verify impact and sign the contract. But we want to be able to bring, as much forward as possible the process. And then about the risk evaluation. So what we do, we call it a triple due diligence. So we look at the company's financials, and we do that in two different steps. So first of all, database information, rating companies. We work with two. So for every project, we collect information from two different sources. This means we are much more likely to have updated data and to also identify if there is something going wrong. For example, if there is any court ruling against the company or any pending process of debt with Social Security or something. If the rating is okay, then we move on to the more, let's say, the finer analysis, where we need access to all companies' information, your latest result. Typical thing the bank would ask a company to give them a loan. We do the same thing. And then there is also the impact analysis, where we also have one person in GoParity that is only dedicated to analyzing every project's impact. Not only quantifying the positive impact, but making sure positive clearly outcomes negative if there is any negative. And we have had to say no to projects because they weren't able to show that this was true.
Thank you. Very clear.
Thank you.
I have a follow-up question regarding the risk assessment that you were just answering. Two things. So do you provide some sort of a rating score based on the risk for your so that's one question. And the related question is, do you also provide some sort of a diversification strategy or advice or tool for your investors so that they can properly assign their risk to different projects?
Yeah. So the risk, we do share risk rating. It goes from A to C plus, because we have chosen not to fund any project with a risk higher than C plus. Just a second, sorry.
Meanwhile, anyone else who has further questions, just raise your hand so we can already see the lineup of questions.
Sorry, because there's some people here for the next meeting.
Okay.
So we do have a rating that we share. It doesn't go below C plus. And if you're a user, you can if you click there and you learn about our risk rating system. So basically, every risk band has a related interest rate, let's say. So interest goes along, of course, with the risk. And if you're a user of GoParity, you can either invest manually or create your strategy to invest, which means that you can make the platform invest automatically, so you don't have to go back there all the time. The way it works is you can choose the percentage of how much of money in your wallet you want to invest. You can place a ceiling, like I want to invest 30% of my wallet, but never more than 1,000 euros per project, for example. And the platform will do that. And you can also choose the risk band. You can say, I only want to lend to projects that are A or B, for example. That was your last question, right?
Yeah, that was the last. I understand you have a follow-up meeting, Nuno, so we won't take you to more of your time. But it has been a really enriching experience, and for us and for our students, and also it's also very inspiring for them to hear your story. And I hope that with your experience, they can gain something, because they're all exploring their own ideas. So with that, Nuno, I really thank you for coming here and joining us.
Thank you
very much. Yeah, thank you.
It was a real pleasure. For me, it was great. I'm just, these things are never as interactive as one would like, but I hope everyone liked it. And also, please feel free to share my email with the students, and also share the voucher. I can give you a link to the voucher directly if they want to try it. And if there's more questions, feel free also to send me an email, and I always reply to emails.
I will put your email, Nuno, then on our Moodle, and also with the link to the voucher, so that they can access it more easily.
That's perfect. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.